right, here we go. If you've been in my class, you know how we start things, so let's do this. Happy Monday, everyone. I start class the other day. Told you I made you feel awkward. Alright, so here we go. The most generic honor code banquet politics and I can't even say it. PowerPoint presentation ever. So, the deconstruction of H. Life lessons from a nerdy, crazy guy. So I'm just going to break it down, tell you what I've learned so far in my 36 years. So for those of you who fortunately never had me as your teacher, a little bit of my background. Originally from Rhode Island, so I say things like, yesterday we were working on, and there's just a D-A, there's no D-R in there. But now that I've worked at Durant for 9 years or whatever, I have this really creepy Southern hybrid thing, so I say tired. I'm tired. Maybe not from Rhode Island. I graduated from HCC in 2000. I went back to school when I was 22, almost 23 years old. Worked for real, like doing retail and all those things. It's horrible. I mean, go to college, if you guys are all here for, go in the military, do something. Just don't work. Don't be a gopher at a construction site. I've done that. It's no fun. So I intended to study philosophy and mathematics when I went to USF. And I went there wanted to learn more about Asian philosophy. I'd done martial arts for a long time in my life, and they're like, no, we don't have any Asian philosophy. Go see religious studies. So by the time I graduated summa cum laude, I had 3.92, I had 1 B, and I was a tremendous nerd, as you can tell. And by the time I graduated, I ended up having a degree in religious studies and classics. So studied lots of Latin, Greek, and all that fun stuff. And then while I was working on my master's, I did a second bachelor's degree in American literature with a concentration in, English, concentration in American lit, while working on my master's in religious studies. And basically I'm addicted to learning. That's why I love coming to school. I think Aaron doesn't really understand, but I just love coming to this place. I can't get enough because I just keep learning. I come here and it's just like I'm saturated by it, and I'm always surrounded. So, addicted to learning and the acquisition of knowledge in all its forms, and as you can see there, never enough reading done. Nerd. All right. That was just for you guys. I also arranged for a free hot meal for you, although it wasn't breakfast. All right. So there I am. I used to hate this picture. Hate it. I was 260 pounds in this picture. I'm probably like 21-ish. And even when I started losing weight and trying to take better care of myself, my mom used to keep this picture like, good thing it was in the basement. But I would go down there every time I go visit Rhode Island. I'm like, Mom, please take that picture down. It's killing me. But now I've kind of embraced it, and it's because I've learned to embrace my entire past, good and bad. It's the only way you're going to move forward. So, if anything, I want you to leave here tonight knowing that anything is possible. And you will find people who are naysayers and will say, oh, no. Trust me, just ignore those people, keep on marching forward and doing your thing. You can make anything happen. But the big thing is, and this is the mistake that most people make, because we live in a culture that is just thrives on instant gratification. That, oh, I want to take a pill, I want to eat like a certain meal, and it's just going to gone. No, it's not going to happen. It's going to take patience and persistence. You have to have patience, and you got to work on it every single day. Doesn't matter what it is, every day. And I think I'm a living testament to that. I mean, I've lost nearly 100 pounds, and there's a reason why. So hopefully this will explain all of it. Alright, so I'm going to begin with the same thing I started with in the speech a couple years ago. That's why I'm doing this, by the way. I did a speech a couple years back, and this year I just figured I was going to wing it. I just made this PowerPoint so I don't get too far off track, because as my students will tell you, I'm very tangential. I just like see these connections in my head, and I'm just gone. But they're like, what's he talking about? I lost him in that peripatetic. All right, so living an examined life. Do not drift through life. It's the biggest mistake you can make. I mean, just to let life happen to you. You have to really engage life if you want to get anything out of it. If you want something meaningful out of your life, you really have to engage it. And this means asking questions. Socrates very famously said, the examined life is not worth living. And it starts there. I mean, you have to look at every single aspect of your life with a critical eye. It's so important. Big fan of The Matrix, so I have Trinity up here too. It is the question that drives us. You know, it was my first year teaching philosophy, and I'm a guy who's just full of questions that probably never stop, at least in my own head anyhow. But this is so true. I feel like I am just driven by questions, big questions. And I think there are two areas that I'm most interested in philosophy, epistemology and ethics. And so if there is one singular question I think is the most important out of any of them, you know, we think of the big ones like, why am I here, and so on and so forth. But as an ethicist, I think the most important one is, how am I to live? How am I to live? Because, again, it's being engaged. You really want to, you know, live actively. You don't want to let life happen to you passively. You really just got to go out there and go for it. And so that's really what I want to talk to you about tonight, some just key areas about what I've learned so far. Act as if everything you do matters. It does. William James, probably one of my favorite philosophers. I mean, just look at him. How do you not fall in love with that majesty? I mean, the little wingtips here? I mean, come on. I mean, he is amazing. And the beard? Come on, I wish I could do that. 19th century guys with facial hair, they rocked, all of them. So, and speaking of rocking, I mean, he rocked American philosophy, like a boss. So, but what I'm really trying to get to here is you have a tremendous amount of power. The power of choice is something that should not be underestimated. Everything that you do is a choice, whether you realize it or not. I used to make horrible choices. I used to be a smoker. I used to eat boxes of macaroni and cheese like it was like competitive or something. Oh, let me eat this whole box of Kraft. 30 seconds, let's go. And then swill some Mountain Dew after, and I go like, you know, chain smoke. Those are choices that I made, bad ones, horrible choices. But I mean, I didn't know what was making those choices. It was just satisfying urges at that point. And that's why living critically and being engaged with your life is so important. Because you have to realize that every choice that you make is going to have some kind of little ripple effect, some kind of repercussion. You know, I often talk about, I read a blog called Letters of Encouragement to Nobody in Particular, and I talk about our life as a magnum opus. Our lives are our great work. Just living. What we do with our lives is so important. And it can't, every choice is just like you're sculpting a statue. You know, you're just little chipping away on it. You know, don't worry if you make a mistake. It's okay, build it out. I mean, it'll work. It's a sculpture, it's a big piece of rock. It's going for a long time, trust me. So, use every choice consciously. I used to, even simple things I've just eliminated from what I used to do. I used to like playing video games. I don't play video games anymore. I mean, you know, it's just a waste of time for me. I mean, I'm not saying, guys, I'm not saying, oh my God, Call of Duty 4. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But, I mean, trust me, in time, it'll make a difference. So be careful of all your choices. Every single one counts. Better to be a first-rate version of yourself than a second-rate version of someone else. I stole this from Mrs. Walmsley's door like 2 days ago. I was walking past the door. And oh, that's the other reason why like Taylor gave me this great calendar with quotes. And I love quotes because they can just, you know, be so emblematic of a certain idea. And so some of these came from the calendar. This one did not. Like I said, I took this from Mrs. Walmsley's door. But this I actually had a conversation with Charlie McBurney after class one day. And we were talking about this, and just kind of talking things out. He said, you know, he's talking about the different personas that people put on. You know, like you feel like, and I'm sure as teenagers, you guys know exactly what this feels like. I have to be like this with this group of friends, and then I have to be like this with this group of friends. I have to be this way with this group, so I don't offend them. And listen, if those people don't accept you for who you are completely, 100%, they're not worth having as your friends. Period. Trust me. And so yes, I'm weird and nerdy and a wacko and all these other things, but for whatever reason, that's why the students, I guess, love me, because they know that what you see is what you get. I don't pull any punches, there's no pretense. You know, my wife told me the other day that her favorite thing is not sitting around the weekend and watching me read books. That was tough to take. I was like, oh, I wish she was perfect in every single way. She just loved me watching them. Yes. Wait, more nature. Let me come up with that mustache. But I'm paraphrasing him here. He actually took this idea from Pindar, an ancient Greek poet. He said, becoming what one is. But so I'm just saying, become who you are. Because this really gets to the notion of change. You're becoming. You're never stopping. You're always going through this process of learning new things. You're becoming a different person each day that you age. But then there's also that part about stasis. There is some kind of core to who you are. And so that's, I think, really important as well. So authenticity. Be a genuine individual. I mean, don't put on airs to please a certain person or anything like that. Be who you are. Be true to yourself. I mean, it's just, I mean, you ask your parents, they'll tell you the same thing. In fact, probably many of these things that I'm telling you, they've all told you before, and you just ignore it. All right, those who believe they have plenty of time, get ready only at the time of death. Then they are ravaged by regret. But isn't it far too late? This is from the calendar. Time, by far and away, is life's most precious commodity. Not money, not any of those other things that you think are worth something. Time is all you get. And you don't even know how much you get. At all. So you really gotta go for broke every single day. This is why I'm so nuts. Because I know, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. So it's very important that you embrace that fact. You never know how much you got. You know, I mean, cherish every moment that you have, especially with your family. You know, I've lost family members this year. Some of you have lost family members this year. It's been a rough year for many of us. But time is so, so important. And again, it gets back to choices. A lot of these things you'll start to see are tied together because, I mean, you really can't waste any time. And that's why making good choices is so important. This is my favorite quote about education ever. John Dewey was a philosopher. He was the one who first advocated that we should have education universally for all young people in America in the late 19th century, early 20th century. He says education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. And I love this word, education. I've been like, when I'm filling in things, and I don't write teacher, I write educator, just because I like the Latin root to it, ducere, which means to lead. And the E is out of, it's ablative, it's away from. To lead out of ignorance is really what education means. But there's a passive, because it also means to draw out. And I think as a teacher, that's what I love the most, is when I get those gears turning in the student's mind, and you can kind of see that click, like, and then they understand, and then, you know, and they start to give you the answers. And this is why I love being a teacher so much, because I learn just as much from my students as they do from me. And I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but I tell my kids that all the time. Like, if they ask me something that I don't know, I don't know, they look it up. I'll tell you tomorrow. And then I'll sit that person down and talk about it. Because then I have to know, because it's just a gap in my knowledge. But it's so important because you need to keep learning forever. This is Voltaire, also from the calendar. The more I read, the more I meditate, and the more I acquire, the more certain I am that I know nothing. Education should not be an experience that fills you with hubris. You shouldn't feel like, oh, I know everything. It should feel, if anything, it's a humbling experience to be educated. Because the more you learn and the more, like, I just try and read, I'm reading books all the time and everything else, and I just think, I don't know anything at all. I mean, if we take all of the cumulative knowledge in this room, and that's a tremendous amount, especially when you consider the parents. I mean, you guys are professionals, and then the students, you guys are the creme de la creme, the best that DHS has got to offer. And we put all our heads together, we don't know anything compared to all the possible knowledge that exists. I mean, we feel like a thimble. It's nothing. So, you know, it should be something that you should always aspire to keep learning, but in the same breath, it should be something that, you know, it never ends. It's just, you should learn all the way, every single day. So it's a lifelong endeavor. Learning literally is a lifelong endeavor. Being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. Aaron and I just celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary. And Lao Tzu is the founder of Taoism. And inside this little wooden box, wood I guess is the 5th anniversary, she has a picture on top, and then on the inside I had this quote. And so I had to have a quote about love. Love is easily the most important thing in life. I mean, I don't think I can say anything more than that. It really is. You ask your parents. I mean, their relationship changed drastically when you were born. The dynamic of a marriage becomes about the child. I mean, it's they love you unconditionally. And you need to always remember that, because you're going to someday meet your spouse, and then that's going to continue as well. So love is by far and away, probably I would say with time, is up there. I mean, it's definitely like the 1 and 2. I mean, they're so important. Mi esposa y yo estamos aprendiendo del español ahora, y estamos próxima frase. La familia es todo. Means family is everything. Family is all. A bad guy on Breaking Bad said that. But when he said, La familia es todo, it definitely sank in my head forever. When Hector Salamanca looks at the screen and says that, okay, yes sir. But it made such an impression, and because I am a language lover, and I've studied many different languages, I love the way certain things sound in different languages. And this definitely is one of them. The family is everything. You know, and again, you are here, students, because of the people you're with. They've brought you here, literally into the world. And then they've supported you for 18 years. And I'm like, thank God I'm going to college. And you sometimes, and I didn't really appreciate this when I was younger, you know, because as teenagers, we're like, oh, I want to hang out with my friends. You know, and yes, many of you I know as students have awesome relationships with your family, but it will only grow stronger in time. I'm telling you right now. I mean, in another 10 years, those 50 million Facebook friends that you have will be whittled down to about 6, your best friends, and your family. I'm kidding you, I kid you not, you will have a stronger bond with your family than anyone else in time. So important. So family is another big important thing to me that I've learned so far. This is Hebrew, kadosh. It means sacred. But the funny thing about this, and I love ancient languages for this reason, because they often have different interpretations. They can mean different things. It also means other, separate, you know. And the most common commandment we see is to welcome the other. Just in the Torah alone, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, it's mentioned 36 times. Just in those first 5 books. And then it's mentioned throughout. I mean, it's in the Gospels, it's in the New Testament, other places. But Judaism and Christianity don't have the lockdown on this. This is from the Quran. Show kindness and affection to your parents. Be kind to near relatives, to orphans and the needy. Be considerate to your neighbors, kinsmen, and strangers, and to the companions at your side. The reason why family is so important is because family teaches us how to love. And it teaches us, in many ways, how to sacrifice for the other. Just as your parents have sacrificed for you, and you will do so for you in turn for your own children. But then you have to broaden that. You have to take that out to the world, for everyone. You always have to welcome the other. I mean, this was a very common idea in antiquity, mainly because anybody could be the ultimate power, a deity, a god in disguise. So you always welcomed everyone because you never knew who that person was. And it's in the Asian religions as well, Confucianism and so on and so forth. I just had this one quote from the Dalai Lama. The essence of spiritual practice is your attitude toward others. When you have a pure, sincere motivation, then you have the right attitude toward others based on kindness, compassion, love, and respect. And so this is what I have on my door. That's Devangari's script in the word Hindi, although it comes from Sanskrit, namaste, which literally means I bow to you. Because there's that divine spark within each of us. We are all worthy of dignity. Doesn't matter who we are. Doesn't matter, the color of your skin. 99.4%. It's only 6, that's how we are, how similar we are, genetically. Every bit of variation that you see in this room, if you look around, is due to 0.6% of the genetic code. That's it. Doesn't matter whatever label you want to give someone, black, white, Republican, Democrat, gay, straight, whatever, they're all people. And people are people. And they deserve that inherent dignity that we've all been given. And so when you go out into the world, you should remember that. Even today, and you guys are great. This class, you guys have done so much to help other people, but you do so in the abstract sense very often. Even this morning I heard someone talking badly about another student. Just, someone's like, it's like, they're a person too. They deserve the same recognition that you do. But it's a lesson that takes a while to learn. So welcome the other in everything that you do in life. It's really important. This is your brain. I know the parents are waiting for this is your brain on drugs, right? Remember that when we were kids? They had like frying pan commercial? No. Okay. This is your brain on meditation. You can see the red areas. The black is where there's no metabolic activity. The red is obviously much higher. So, about as much as I love religion, I love science too. I really love physical science, big fan of astronomy and cosmology. And a few years ago when I was doing a graduate course, we were studying, it was a Buddhism class, but we were looking at modern contexts and how these things are applied. And so what we're seeing now is in the last 3 to 5 years, a lot of current neuroscience, I'm on like my 4th book that I just read about this stuff, is it talks about this, the brain has this amazing ability called neuroplasticity, which is effectively, we can change our minds over time. Literally, change them. Physically, you can remap the brain and everything. And one of the most effective ways, and actually, the reason why I wanted to talk about meditation too is because now you see it in all these psychological journals and everything, and they're talking about it's one of the most effective ways to de-stress, to have better emotional reactions, to have better cognitive processing power, better focus and attention. So I wrote my whole paper, this big long 20-page paper, probably no one would ever want to read. But it was, I basically talked about bringing that to an educational context to learn, to teach students how to focus better. And even as little as 20 minutes a day can do a tremendous amount of wonder. And I started doing it not for spiritual reasons, but honestly because I'm a scientist. I want to know who else do I experiment on other than myself. So I started doing it 5 minutes a day, and 5 minutes became 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Now I do it twice a day for half an hour if I can, each time. But there's a lot of science behind meditation, and it's something that I would wholeheartedly recommend for anyone. Especially because our brain is constantly bombarded by all those negative TV ads. Your subconscious has no idea what's truth. This is proven in psychology. So when you watch those commercials that tell you like, oh, I don't have an iPhone, a horrible life. Your subconscious starts to believe those things. And so, which is just crazy to me, but by using meditation, you can actually start to create some space between those negative thoughts that you have churning around in your head. I used to be so full of them all the time. Just, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. I'm horrible at this, I suck at that. All the time. And I cannot tell you how much I've changed myself. Just when I did my breathing, and this is the first time I've ever admitted this to anyone. I chose 5 qualities when I started meditating about 2.5 years ago, the things I want to work on the most, because I felt that I needed to change my life for the better. And they were love, compassion, gratitude, generosity, and patience. Every breath I take, I think of those 5 on the inhale, and I think of the 5 on the exhale. I do that 3 breaths at the beginning of every class. It's 180 times a day I'm telling myself that those are important. And then probably on top of when I'm doing my regular meditation at home too. And I'm just now this really weird guy. It's like, oh yeah, come on in, mi casa, su casa. I mean, and it's really changed me. It's changed my personality. It's changed who I am in many ways. And I really think I'm a better person for it. So I have a little handout, if you don't think I'm too crazy, I would like to give you about just, and it's very basic. I mean, it's basically focusing on your breath. Learning how to breathe. That's the way I pitch it to the kids. Learn how to breathe. The first day I told them that. I'm going to teach you how to breathe. And I was, huh? I'm doing it right now. I'm breathing. I'm fine. I don't need it. Seriously. And then that freaked out look that, you know, many of you probably, what's this guy doing? When I sat down and started doing it. Yeah, you should have seen their face the first day. They were like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So there's a lot of excellent science out there. If you want to read a really good book, I just finished The Brain That Changes Itself. It's exquisite. But you should check it out. Don't be fooled by appearances. The miraculous and the mundane are one and the same. If there's anything I've learned, you know, maybe I've spent too much time studying all this religion and all this science and everything else, but I think that we really miss out. We pay attention to the wrong things, I think, sometimes, you know. I mean, I love working at Durant just because of all the animals. Not you guys. But I mean, like the actual animals. I miss Peg Wilder. I cannot tell you how much I miss Peg Wilder this year. She retired last year, and every time I hear a new bird, I'm like, I don't know what that bird is. Where's Peg Wilder? But she was a huge ornithologist, and she could tell you, like, she could hear the call. Like, it's this. I'm like, oh. So sometimes, if you ever see me wandering around campus, or sometimes there's that bench outside the tree, I'm waiting for like food prep people to catch me, like sitting under the tree meditating, listening to the birds. I'm like, oh, what's he doing? But I really think this is true. That everyday life is completely miraculous. I mean, when you think about the odds of the fact that you're alive right now, just think about that. Sit with that for a second. I mean, kids, think about like the fact that you were born into the family that you were born into. The luck that you know, I mean, to have these parents that support you and care for you and nurture you. I mean, this is, it's really amazing. I can't get enough of life. I think I'm addicted to life. And it's, every day, it's more and more amazing. People like, they look at their, oh, this iPhone is so cool. I'm like, really, birds are cooler. They have hollow bones and they can fly and they've been around for like millions of years and stuff. And I don't know, I just think, like, when you think about the brain, I've learned so much about the brain, like your eyes don't even see. Your brain is actually just processing electrical signals that are being received through light. Just stop and think about that for a second. I mean, it's like even like as you reach your hand, you're like, whoa. This is like an extension, and like electrical signals are going down and telling it to do this crazy stuff. I mean, it is. You guys are just looking at all. Everybody's like, this guy's a freak. What is wrong with this guy? But I really think life is absolutely incredible and miraculous, and we far too often take it for granted and should never do so. Because every day you get is just another chance to go for broke and do what you want to do and make some positive change in this world. The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. It's that simple. You don't have to go anywhere. You just have to realize what's right in front of you. And it's a big, giant miracle.